We have real games. We have real results. We have a lot of FAAB bidding in some leagues, some big bids coming up. All of that and much, much more on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday night, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. If you could please rate and review the podcast, we greatly appreciate that. We appreciate our sponsorship with WynnBET. Also appreciate them being the sponsor for the RotoWire podcast. Jeff, we have a weekend of real games. We have two bench clearing incidents. We've got Stephen Kwan making like 2 outs all weekend. We got Byron Buxton hitting balls in the upper deck on pitches that are 101 out of the zone, like crazy stuff. But most importantly, how are you on the Sunday night?
Well, I mean, I'm thrilled that we have all these things to talk about.
I know. A month ago, we really weren't sure we'd be here talking baseball. So it's
the less said about our respective teams, the better. Although Hunter Green makes me feel kind of warm and fuzzy inside, and Nick Lodolo later this week will make me do the same, hopefully. But
I know the Reds are a tough topic at the moment. They were 2-2 this weekend, but those first 4 innings, get ran out of gas a little bit. But those first 4 innings, Hunter Green was nasty.
Yeah, he kind of got hit a couple of times in the fifth, but hey,
that's like
taking some lumps against the Braves is not exactly
Matt Olson hit a home run off you. That happens, but like it's an easy 101 if that's possible. Like he doesn't look like he's throwing hard. It just fly. It's crazy how easy that 101 looks. Like Chapman looks like he's throwing hard and he throws 100 miles an hour, but Green just looks like he's just kind of out there just gassing, and it's crazy how the ball jumps out of his hand. That's got to be fun as a Reds fan right there.
Yeah. I mean, every time I get really ticked off at our Reds, they do things like this, and they're fun. And they've got other arms in the system. Graham Ashcraft throws touches 100. He doesn't do easy 100 like Green does, but it's fun. It really is fun.
Yeah, it was interesting. We only had one team that's undefeated, one team that got swept. That was the Rays over the Orioles. I guess if you had looked at the schedule, you probably would have figured out that was going to be the sweep in baseball. That was a pretty ugly one. 15 runs for the Rays and 4 for the Orioles. That's not a good weekend of baseball for the Orioles, but that was the only team that got swept. Luckily, my A's finally got a win today. Our A's. I thought you had fully shirked all your responsibility there. I saw that my friend, president of the A's, Dave Cavill, was on a tweeting spree tonight talking about how they can't put money in the team and stuff. So it's just just get off Twitter, dude.
I'm glad I didn't see that. I mean, that's just
everybody was complaining. He's responding with, we need a stadium before we can buy any players. So it's just the whole thing is. It's all a lot, but they won a game. Dalton Jeffries pitched really well today. They had a couple of clutch hits, but they did not look great over the weekend either. They get 7 games this week, Jeff. They get the Rays and the Jays. I don't know who set this schedule, but good Lord.
Yeah, it's not very kind, to say the least.
Yeah, but before we get into FAAB, let's talk a little bit about a week 2 coming up. It's fun. We got our first, this is like kind of a taste of baseball this weekend. Just the quick kind of 3 or 4 days. We got a full week of games this week. We have 13 teams that have 7 games. So if you're setting your schedule, you're setting your teams. Make sure there are a lot of day games tomorrow morning. Especially if you're on the West Coast, there's games starting at 11 in the morning. There's a couple 11, I think at 12, a couple 12s and a 1. So there's gonna be a lot of lineups coming out early. So if you're on the West Coast, you're listening to this tonight, maybe you want to set your lineups tonight. On the East Coast, you want to do it in the morning too. But we got 13 teams with 7 games. We do have 2 teams with 5 games. Arizona and Houston play 5. Jeff, I was looking at the good schedule this week. If you want to try and focus on some offense, I really like the Brewers and the Yankees this week. Brewers have 3 at Baltimore. We've already addressed that's a good team to hit against. Then 4 at home against St. Louis. The Yankees have 4 against Toronto. That'll be a really fun series. Toronto does have good pitching, but then they have 3 at Baltimore. So when you put those 2 together, that's a pretty good week of offense for both those teams.
Absolutely. And although I kind of wonder about the Brewers offense still.
Yeah.
Kind of surprised, their pitching actually wasn't so great this weekend.
They got some of their. I mean, Woodruff. I don't know. Woodruff had a really bad spring, and he looked bad against the Cubs. I mean, it's not they're facing the 27 Yankees. He's able to give 7 earned runs, and it was not what you wanted after a really rough spring.
Yeah, our friend Matty Davis tweets out the bad starts, and that got a lot of traction.
You never want to be on Matty Wood's list for your pitchers. It's an ugly place.
No, you do not. But yeah, I'm not moving the needle on him yet, but I'm watching a little closer maybe. I just think it's such a short spring training, cold weather in Chicago. It's just, sometimes power pitchers have struggled with their command, not just control, but also command.
Although if you took him in the first round, you hope he figures that out pretty quick because these stats you're using them, they count. It's all real at this point. But that was again, Peralta gave 3 in the first today, but then kind of settled in. But it wasn't Corbin Burns was not great on Thursday also. So it was definitely for a team that everybody's like, oh, just get all their pitchers. It was not great. Although Josh Hader looked awesome in the ninth today.
Yeah, too bad. He's not getting more save chances necessarily, but there you go.
Yeah, they finally did win a game against the Cubs. But a couple other teams that have good offenses this week. The Rays line up really well. They have 4 against Oakland, as we know. Pretty much outside of Frankie Montas, there's nobody really scared of there. And they get 3 at the White Sox, which sounds not so great sometimes. But they miss Dylan Cease, and Lucas Giolito, we'll talk about in a little bit, is going on the IL. So it's a really good setup for the Rays considering who they miss in those games also.
Exactly,
and they're really good, by the way.
Yeah. Which should be a surprise to nobody at this point. It's so funny. I did a hit on Beeson on, I think it was, I want to say Wednesday, Tuesday, I think it was. And we were talking about futures. And I talked up the Rays as an over-under. Same day, Joe Sheehan's newsletter came out, made the Rays his best bet. Peter Shankey's over-under a column on RotoWire, which you can still read here. Still probably has a lot of
What was their number?
It's like 89.5.
Yeah,
and they won 100 games last year. You tell me, trading Austin Meadows, is that going to move the needle downward? No.
Do you think just the tough division with Yankees, Red Sox, Jays in there makes a difference? And obviously the Orioles, but still, the Rays are so good.
They are. And
they always are.
Last year when they traded away Snell, they let Morton walk. Even I was like, and I'm a Rays apologist. Even I was like, okay, what are you guys doing here? Hey, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They make mistakes, but they make a lot of smart plays too. That are just like they traded Snell at the right time.
Yeah, they sure did. And Wander Franco's played 3 games so far, has 2 3-hit games already. So is that good? That'll work. That'll work so far.
They should lock him up.
Did they lock him? They did lock him up, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
Bigly. Yeah.
I love when people get upset about the early lockups. I'm like, dude, come on, you're like setting yourself up for a long term. Like worst case, you lost a little bit of money because you did really well, and you're gonna get paid on the back end. So I'm always one who thinks locking up a decent deal is a pretty smart deal to kind of set yourself up forever, essentially.
Yeah, Jonathan Singleton agrees with you on that.
Yeah, there
is risk to the downside. Scott Kingery, another one. It's not every prospect is a sure thing. Now, Wander Franco is a infinitely better prospect.
And if he's great, he probably gave a little bit of money on the back end. But like if he's that good, he's going to get paid at what is that 28 or 30, whatever it goes through anyway. Like it's going to work out for him. And if he gets injured, you don't want it to happen. But it's baseball. Guys get hurt. Guys suffer really bad injuries. It's certainly nice to have that locked in.
Yeah. Yes, it's probably true that Acuna and Ozzie Albies could have gotten better deals,
right?
Especially when you see Tatis's deal. Nonetheless, why get angry about that? I appreciate people advocating for the player. We saw during the lockout that not everybody does. So
I do too, but these guys take a ton of risk off the table too.
Exactly.
Just when you lock up that amount of money, you just take so much risk and stress off the table. You just go play. Like I think that's you may give up some money, but I'm always for it. But so a couple of good schedules before we do get into the FAAB, which was pretty interesting this week. The Jays are really good too. They're 4 at New York. I think the Yankees can hit, but can pitch a little bit. But I don't think you worry too much there. Aside from Garrett Cole, Luis Severino looked pretty good this weekend too. And then they get 3 against the A's. Again, not to pick on my A's, but again, outside of Montas, there's nobody really worried about it. I think the Jays are going to score a ton of runs all year, and we can kind of throw them in this mix every single week, but especially so this week with 7 and in the locations that teams are playing. Yeah,
exactly.
And then we got the Rockies. The Rockies are home the second half of the week. Always a good thing in Coors Field. They have 2 games against Pittsburgh also, which is really 2 games. They have 4 games against the Cubs on the weekend. The Cubs have a good – they're 2 at Pittsburgh and then 4 at the Rockies. So that's a really good setup. I don't think we really know who the Cubs are quite yet, although C.S. Suzuki looked good today with 3 and homer. But 2 at Pittsburgh, 4 at Coors Field's always a good thing. Obviously, Rockies at Coors Field's good. They played the Dodgers this weekend. They actually won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. So that was pretty impressive there. Another guy, Julio Urias, did not look good today. His velocity was down 2.5 miles an hour. He was down to 91s, and I was talking to Rob Silver about it. It just like I don't know what Urias at 2 miles an hour looks like, because I think he's a guy that doesn't strike out a ton of guys as it is. You drop him down 2 miles an hour, he becomes a little bit of a different pitcher. It's a little bit harder for him to be as good as he's been.
Exactly.
And it's one start, but he was down in spring also, and it's in Coors Field. You can kind of throw those out, but if I had drafted him in the second round, I certainly want to see that tick back up pretty quick here.
Yeah. Decree, no strikeouts. He did get hurt by Chris Taylor's error in the first inning, but
yeah, that was a bad play.
Yeah. But still, yeah, I mean, it was so hard to track velocity this spring. And it was because it's still it may not be a permanent thing. It may just be that because we had a shorter spring, and then you start off in Coors Field. Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, right.
That it can come back. It could. The problem is, it could be these guys could all go Luis Castillo on us. It'd be bad for 6 weeks, and eventually he'll get his velocity back, maybe. But the damage is already done. I don't want to say that that's the case for Urias just yet, but I also want to try to judge him a little bit more based on I want to give him a little bit more rope. Let's just put it that way. Home start against the Reds this week. Our Reds.
Are you making your way out to the ravine at all for the 4-game set?
Easter weekend.
Details.
I'm gonna try. I don't know. Maybe we'll find a way.
A little. If you do, you get a little Tyler Malley this weekend. That's probably a good spot to be.
We're not going to go Sunday. Easter Sunday. We're not.
Hunter Green Saturday though.
That's my huckleberry right there.
I was going to say that's if you're going to do it, that's what you go. You go Hunter
against
Green,
Urias too,
against
for that
matter.
matter.
That's a good matchup. Yeah. And Walker Buehler was down 1.5 miles velo wise too, and that's the concerning thing with Buehler is that like everything everybody talked about in the spring is that he was down 1.5 miles last year.
Mm-hmm.
He was down. He was like a 97 guy in 2020, and I know that was a short season. But he was 96.5 in 2019, and then 95.5 last year, and 94 in his first start. Again, first start hasn't ramped up fully in Coors, but that's another guy that I think you want to see that tick up a little bit pretty quick here.
Yeah, and no, Dodgers are not panicking yet. These are slightly negative indicators, but it's also 3 games.
It is 3 games. I would not worry about it yet at all. But those are 2 guys that they need to be as great as they want to be.
Yeah.
So I think that those ticking back up is really important. Clayton Kershaw didn't pitch this weekend. It was kind of weird. They just pushed him back. I think they were just avoiding Coors for him. But obviously we'll see. He's going to pitch against I think Minnesota this week, which is no easy task. But at least he's at home, or at least he's outside of Coors. He is at Minnesota. Might be a little bit chilly, but I just kind of feel like they were avoiding Coors for him more than anything.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, remember the way his season ended last year. He was shut down. Yeah, I would treat it, especially when you've got Urias and you've got Buehler and you got Gonsolin, and Gonsolin's, he's a pretty darn good pitcher in his own right. And he didn't have a great game in his start on Saturday too. They're going to be all right though. They're going to be all right.
I don't think any Dodger fan is panicking, or that any of the Dodgers are panicking. I think you don't panic until maybe June if you're struggling. But I just think, the person in the chat said, it's funny, short spring training. Like, I just think that's a big deal for a lot of pitchers. And guys aren't, especially power pitchers, aren't fully ramped up. You've seen that with Woodruff and Urias and Buehler. I think they'll be fine. But fantasy-wise, like, these stats still count. So we certainly want to see them ticking back up pretty quick here.
For sure.
So let's get into FAAB. It actually turned out to be a little more interesting than I thought it was going to be. As I started to look earlier, it didn't look that big, but there was one big name there. But first, a note from our sponsors at WynnBET. WynnBET is now the exclusive sponsor for RotoWire's Fantasy Podcast. WynnBET brings you all the latest action with a user-friendly interface, moneyline bets, boosted parlays, over-unders, round robins, live betting, and so much more all at your fingertips. Want a break from sports betting? Head into WynnBET's digital casino and take a spin on roulette, double down on blackjack, slam the slots, or try your hand at Baccarat. WynnBET is currently available in 9 states: Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia, all while rapidly expanding. At WynnBET, the possibilities are limitless. Register for WynnBET today, make a qualifying deposit, and wager up to $200. Receive $200 in free bets. Promotion may vary by state. Download WynnBET now. That's WYNNBET. WynnBET, the exclusive partner for RotoWire's Fantasy Podcasts. So, Jeff, the big name this week turned out to be Josh Lowe in FAAB. There was a lot of people that dropped Josh Lowe last week, which is why he was available to me. He got drafted in a lot of main events, and then he got sent down. It was before the Austin Meadows trade, so a lot of people dropped him. And, it's hard to keep a guy that, was going to go down. There was no real feel he'd come right back up. There really wasn't a spot for him more than anything. It wasn't like, Pittsburgh with O'Neal Cruz, where there's a spot for him, but they just sent him down. We think he's going to come back up pretty quickly. But Josh Lowe looked like, no spot for him. He's going to back down. So he's 60% owned in main events, 38% rostered in 12 teamers. So he's available in a lot of leagues. The bidding was crazy. Eric Heiberlig, who has won the online championship before, buying guys super early in FAAB for a lot of money, not having a lot left, but kind of riding and getting full seasons from guys. His strategy. He added him in a number of mains. He plays a lot of different teams, but over 500 in all of them. Dalton Del Don, our friend, bought him for $555 in my main event. He was not available in my second one, but he's available in my first weekend one. The second one, I actually drafted him, so it was nice to not have to bid on him. But where were you on Lowe? Like, I get the theory that I'm not one who usually spends 500, but like if you look at it, like this might be the best bat in FAAB we get for quite a while.
Spread at least in the 15s.
Yeah, for sure. 12s, you probably get some. You're right.
Right. Unfortunately, he was only available in the 12s for me.
Okay. How aggressive were you there?
Actually, I got to double check that. I want to make sure he wasn't available in yogurt before I say anything. But I was not aggressive enough. I was low on Low.
I love you just call it yogurt naturally now.
Yeah, a little sweet and low in yogurt, but okay, I'll stop now. But yeah, no, not available in any of my 15s.
Okay.
John's Posma in my, in his main that I'm a part of, part 2. I'm in both of his mains. He picked him up last week because he's a smart human being.
So he wasn't drafted, and he picked him up after he got sent down. That's like another level of picking guys.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Yeah, I saw that, and then the next day the trade happens. I'm like, okay, let's go see Josh. Nope, can't do that. Nope.
How aggressive were you in the 12ers though? I was outbid. I was the backup in one of mine, but he went for I'll just call it 205 and 275. I think is ballparking in my two leagues. I saw him kind of ranging from like 150s to up to 400 in the 12s. Where were you on him, and how aggressive were you in trying to get someone like this?
I bid I think I bid 75 in one and less in the other because I didn't have as much. I think I didn't have an obvious spot and an obvious drop for that matter. Right. The other I spent like 95 and wasn't close. It went 186 to 182. But the other one I would have gotten them in that. But so it goes.
How do you feel about Lowe? I mean, obviously it's a big year.
Like
Triple A last year, 21 home runs, 26 stolen bases in a time when we are really trying to find stolen base guys. This is someone that could do it at the bat. Yeah. I think the one concern is, how much of the Rays play him. He's not going to get 650 plate appearances playing for the Rays. You got to think he's going to sit against, some tough pitchers, or they may platoon here and there. But it's hard to think of other guys coming up that are going to be, better bats off the bat. Maybe aside from someone who maybe gets dropped in your league, but like guys getting called up. This is, among the top guys.
Played all 3 games this weekend. That's a good start. I'm curious to see what happens when they face some lefties.
If they do platoon, at least he's on the strong side of that platoon. So there's a lot of lefties in the AL East, right? I think.
Yeah, but let's see. Looking ahead this week, they face 5 righties, 2 lefties. The 2 lefties are Cole Irvin and Wes Benjamin, I think. Yeah, Wes Benjamin from the White Sox, and they're assuming it's Wes Benjamin. We're guessing, I think, on that one there because the White Sox, as we're about to talk about, have some transition in their rotation right now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think out loud. The Yankees have 2, the Jays have 2, the Red Sox have 1. So a decent amount of lefties in that division. I don't know if we care about Baltimore, but Baltimore's got 2 also with Means and then either Zimmerman or Keegan Aiken, whoever they happen to throw out there. So there are a lot of lefties, but a lot of those are guys that I really wouldn't worry about him against. It's just a matter if they decide to use him or not. I mean, you don't want him against, maybe Ryu, who didn't look good today, Kikuchi and Montgomery, but like, there's not like anybody I'm super scared of in this lefty, but it's just a matter of what the Rays do with him.
Yeah, I think that's true. And you know what? Sometimes you don't want him to face that other lefty, and he can still come in the game later, still do his damage. In a 7-game week, I'm playing him.
What is if you're I don't know if you've done in season prediction, but what's your home run stolen base thought for him? And he's like, you think like 15-15? You think like 15-20? Like if you had to ballpark, where do you think he ends up this season from where you're at?
I gave him, I think, 19 and 19. So it's pretty aggressive.
Which is a pretty damn good season from a free agent pick.
18 and 19 is what I gave him.
And hitting 265, something like that?
No, a little lower, 245.
All right. I mean, he hit 291 in AAA last year. That was the 361 BABIP, but
it's the Ks that worry me a little bit.
It does strike out. The swinging strike rate's a bit high. He's like 13% in the minors last year. So I think that's the one kind of thing he might run into. Might run some slumps where he strikes out a bunch, but
26% K rate in AAA last year. Actually, that's usually translates to 30 plus in the majors. So
that's the one mark right there, and a little reason why I didn't go a little bit higher. But I pushed him way up in my second main event. I drafted him in the 16th or 17th round, I think, and he was he was someone that wasn't getting drafted or going really late. But once Meadows got traded, I was like, I think that the upside in that spot was kind of unparalleled.
Yeah.
Let's see. We had a couple others we talked about last week, but real quick, Bryson Stott and CJ Abrams were both about 78% owned in the 12-teamer. So it wasn't available in a lot of leagues, but do you have I think I like Stott a little bit more than Abrams just because of, Abrams just seems, I love watching him, but he seems so raw. He's had very few games in AAA. I did draft him in one of my main events just because I thought it was worth taking a shot in that round, but he had a stolen base the other night where he had it stolen easily and slid past the bag. He had a ball he hit to the wall that was almost a home run. So kind of almost there, but he's platooning a little bit too. He and Ha-Seong Kim are kind of splitting time there, so that worries me a little bit.
Right.
I really like the funness of Abrams, but in the 12-teamer, I'm not really sure how much I want him on my roster.
I think that's fair. I think the lack of experience is the big issue. He's been hurt so much, but at the same time, good on him for showing well in spring training. Good on the Padres for putting up their best roster, whatever that may be, as opposed to playing service time games. This is, they did the same thing with Tatis. They called him up when they thought he could help the team, as opposed to waiting 21 days later. So good on them for that. Abrams, I think Abrams has a much higher fantasy ceiling than Stott because I think he's going to run more.
Yeah.
Although I got to be fair, I got to dig a little bit more on Stott. He may be able to run some too, but
Stott's got playing time issues too. It seems like he and Alec Boehm are kind of trading off, not really, and then Boehm didn't play. Boehm is weird. Like, he was the third overall pick. I know he struggled last year, but he played 1 out of 3 games this weekend. That game he had 2 for 2, had a laser in the gap, and then he sits on Sunday. So I think Johan Camargo and someone else played. I don't know.
Hey, they deserve. They lost, so they got punished for that.
Yeah, good. And I get it's the first weekend trying to get everybody a start, but Boehm had 2 hits. When you put him back in the lineup, it just seems weird. He's gonna get no rhythm going. But Stott hit 300 last year across AA and AAA. He had 7 steals and 11 home runs. Pretty decent strikeout rate. Just killed it in spring training, which is how he ended up on this team. He was really good. He was better than Boehm in spring training. I'm kind of worried that Stott and Boehm kind of make it so neither one is worth it at the moment.
Yeah, until Didi Gregorius gets hurt again.
That's the most possible thing. You get Stott over to shortstop, and they can kind of both play, which is nice.
Any chance maybe Stott plays a little outfield too? And I guess I'm looking at Castellanos in the outfield and Vierling in the outfield. Because that's the problem is if Schwarb gets hurt, Castellanos can DH, but now one of those two has to play the field, which is
one of the Vierling kind of has to play because someone's got to play center field, right?
Right. They have to stand in center field with a glove on.
You don't really want to mess with Harper. Harper could probably play center field. You probably just don't want to mess with that. And you're not going to move the MVP around and kind of mess with that. So they just kind of need some
Reds take notes on that. Not saying that Nick Senzel is Bryce Harper, but stop jerking guys around that are high value players.
By the way, hell of a play in center field on Saturday.
Yeah.
Did you see Senzel's catch?
Yes.
I couldn't believe he chased that down.
Stay healthy. Stay healthy.
Totally.
Let him play. But
that ball was in the gap, and he just chased it down. He caught up to it, which you rarely see. That was an impressive play. But another guy that got a lot of action, especially because of what he did today. Obviously, we're dealing with 3 games so far. A couple teams played 4, but when one game happens, it changes everything. Steven Kwan went 5 for 5 today. He's now hitting 800. 3 walks, 0 strikeouts, and moving up in the order, hitting second. The Indians had the Guardians. I knew I was going to do that at once today. The Guardians had 17 runs. I think they had 0 and 1 the first 2 games, scored 17 today. Quan is someone that kind of, I think we know what he's going to do as long as he plays. He hit 320 in the minors last year. He's kind of a souped up Nick Madrigal, maybe not quite a Michael Brantley, but kind of in that comparison.
Getting closer to Michael Brantley than Madrigal at this point.
Got a little more pop. He had 12 home runs in the minors last year, and Madrigal's not going to hit 12 home runs ever. So 6 stolen bases, hit second. This is not a great lineup, but if you hit at the top of it, you're hitting, with J Ram and Rosario and a couple of those other guys, it's not a really bad spot right there.
Yeah. Franmil Ray's in there as well.
Yeah. You don't want to be in the bottom half. It's pretty ugly, but the top 4 or 5 is definitely workable.
Yeah. Miller, Clement, Mercado, Lavastida.
Hey, Mercado going Grand Slam today, though.
Yeah. So, hey, Chris Bubich, not a great spot start there.
That was nice. Yeah, if you had picked him up for I'll get a nice, easy landing spot against the Guardians.
I wanted to talk about maybe the Guardians being a streamable opponent, and I still probably will.
I think they probably are. I don't think that Chris Bubich and Jackson Kowar, I don't think I've ever seen a guy come in and not give up 7 runs, was ugly also. He was a big prospect last year too. He got called up and he had 6 runs in the first inning he pitched and then kind of felt it was bad after that. But
they had a couple of bad debuts last year, him and Lynch both.
That's right. this was rough early too. What do you do with someone like Quan? I think we know what we're getting. I think you probably missed his best weekend of the year, which is always really tough, but 10 home runs, 5 steals, and 300 average definitely plays, especially in a 15 team. And I think that plays in a 12er also.
I think he's a prime keep him honest bid type of guy.
Yeah.
Put a bid on him. If you get him, great, but don't break the bank either.
He went for 173 in my online league with a backup of 11.
I'd be somewhere in between. But
that's never. And then the other league, he went for 140.
That was the online, you said, right?
Yeah, the other online was 143 and 123. So I think it was an aberration that no one was the big backup bid there. But we talk about these 12 teamers. Like the main event seems like the 15 teamers. There's a little more consistency in bidding. You get some off the wall stuff too, but these 12ers are all over the place. Like guys will go for 180 in one league and 14. Now there's so many of them too. There's only 47 or 48 main event leagues. But those onlines are so many of them. They're all. People ask me for bid advice at 12s, and I can kind of give you a ballpark.
12s are weird, I believe is the phrase, right?
They are very weird. I try and help as much as I can, but there's times where I'm off by $100 just because there's someone in your 12er that has a bunch of money and wants to spend it, and they only put. Maybe they don't think they put that much money into 12. It could be a lot of people money for some, not that much for the other. I think people are just a lot more freewheeling with the 12ers. A lot of people don't bid in 12s too. It's hard to really pinpoint a bid amount in those leagues.
I'd agree.
Yeah. Daniel Bard in Colorado looks like, at least if you want to, line up how they looked the other night, they went 7th, 8th, and 9th. They went Colomé in the 8th, Bard in the 9th, got the Rockies' first save, 1, 2, 3, and he looked pretty good against the Dodgers. He had a better spring than Colomé. We're always looking for saves. I think he's the guy there right now. It kind of was leaning towards that way in the spring, but he's still a closer in Colorado. His ERA was still 5.21 with a 1.6 whip last year in 65 innings. Pretty good K rate, but walks too many guys. What did you with Bard this weekend? I kind of like him. I like the story too. I was in on the bidding, but it's just always a little bit scary to have your guy with half his games, of course.
Yeah, this is one of those Fred Zinke put your second place bid sort of thing. But desperation for saves comes in many places, and the answers for that come in many places. Bud Black said during spring training that I think he said they prefer to get a guy in the 9th inning that can strike guys out. Yep, and Bard's definitely better than that, than Colomé and Estevez both, but I don't know. So far they chose column B, and they went with the right. Yeah, that's the Chris joke that I'm stealing. But
the thing with Bard though is even if he's bad with the job, there's so many teams that don't have someone with the job that there aren't that many guys who just in the 9th inning they're coming in, and he's not that yet, but. I think it's kind of leaning that way, and obviously he could struggle and they could switch that, but there's so many teams where, you look at the Giants and the Reds and the Mariners, there's so many, the Rays a little bit too, although Kittredge had a win and a save this weekend, but there's so many teams we don't even know who's pitching the 9th, and a team we know is pitching the 9th, that just adds a little bit of value in a season where we don't have 30 closers this year.
Yeah, witness the Reds. Tony Santillan on opening night gets the save, but they said high leverage situation, so he pitches the 7th today, and Art Warren gets the save.
Yep.
Yay.
I mean, the Mariners, the second rider got one. Diego Castillo got the other. Paul Sewald kind of threw as the high leverage guy also. There's so many teams where we don't know what's going to happen day to day. And you kind of have to throw guys in there and hope they get a save in the week you throw them. It's really hard to time it. You kind of have to just either use them all the time or not use them at all. It's really tough to try and time them, but there are a lot of teams like that.
I agree.
Brad Miller, an old friend, leading off against righties for the Rangers. He actually had 20 home runs last year. Started out well this weekend, had a home run. I think he had 4 RBIs today, and the Rangers finally got one against the Jays after the Jays kind of punished them those first 2 games. Although the Rangers offense scored pretty well. They got Hyun-Jin Ryu pretty good today, but Brad Miller didn't even start today and got 4 RBIs. Kind of wild. Hit his second home run.
That is wild.
But you look at it a little closer. Last year, 48% hard hit rate. 12.37% barrel rate. I think you do a lot worse than Brad Miller in a 15-teamer, and kind of you have to, in an NFBC type format where you get those half-week moves, I think you can kind of find good spots to use him, especially if he stays leading off.
Yeah, I think he's got a short shelf life, but that's fine.
I'm sure.
It's part of the churn.
Yep. And you get someone that hits the ball hard, hitting in front of, if he hits in front of Semyon, Seager, Garver, Adolis, like that's a pretty good top half of the lineup. And righties are obviously the bigger part of that platoon. I think you can find a lot of spots where he's going to get 2 or 3 starts or 3 or 4 starts. And I think that's usable in an NFBC type format.
Yep. Adolis, by the way, home run and a stolen base so far. You got to like that. And he was getting discounted a little bit there because he was really worse in the second half. I don't claim that he's a great player, but I think he got priced down a little bit too much.
Yeah, I think he's 1 for 11, but he when he gets on, he does do some damage.
Is he 1 for 11? Okay.
I think so.
This is me like taking away that patting on the back.
No, home run, a stolen base though. Like that's what he does. I think that if you can, he's probably going to hit
selective viewing there though. Like, he has these shiny things. Forget about the 10 outs, but yeah, all right.
If he hits 230, like if he brings the power speed, it's really gonna work. If he hits 180, that's a problem. But
1 for 11, and Cody Bellinger's like, dude, that's not even that great. But
Cody Bellinger's in cores too. We'll talk about him a little bit later, but it's rough. There was not a lot of offense. We hit on Brad Miller, we hit on the rookies, we hit on Lowe, Stott, and Abrams. There was not a lot of offense to look for this weekend. I really struggled trying to find anybody. I looked at Jerkson Profar a little bit, just kind of playing a decent amount of time. Had a grand slam today. But were there any other bats you were looking at? Because I really struggled trying to find anybody I was really excited to bid on, especially in the 15s. And we just drafted these teams too. Like I'm not really fired up to drop anybody quite yet, unless they were. Yeah, my drops were a couple injured guys or some of these speculation closers that someone like Rowan Wick is clearly not having the job right now. Someone like Dinelson Lamet, once they traded for Taylor Rogers, it's kind of an easy drop for me too. Although I do like Lamet as a pitcher, I just think Rogers is clearly the guy right now. So those are the kind of drops I have. But like after 3 days of the season, I'm very not willing to drop guys that I obviously took for a reason. Literally a week ago.
Yeah, I was very tepid in my bidding this week. Yeah. I mentioned on the video that people probably will see tomorrow morning on sneaky ads. Helio Ramos, the Giants, got the promotion. He is a prospect of some ilk. Did not have a good year last year. Surprisingly, got the call this year after and made his debut today. Went 2 for 3 at the run scored. Obviously wasn't available in the main, but something to keep an eye on there a little bit. I think. Yeah,
I mean, I think he had a quote. He said he wanted to steal 20 bases. I don't know how much he's going to play or if he's going to stay up or how it's going to work, but he's definitely someone that he had 15 steals last year in 116 games. If he plays a bunch, he's certainly interesting. I just don't know. You never know with the Giants. I mean, the Giants pretty much are going to start, Brandon Belt and Brandon Crawford every day and kind of mix and match almost everybody else in their lineup.
Platoon like crazy. It works. It's smart. And in fact, to that point, if you look at their roster, Ramos isn't tops on the depth chart at any position, although Lamont Wade is on the IL right now. So that's the position that he is on the top on. But otherwise, I mean, he is not listed as their top player in any position.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because the NFBC format, so you get to kind of watch this week because he wasn't available. The player pool locks in Sunday morning, which I actually kind of like. But if you're in your home league or any other league, like it's, I think he's, I'd grab him right now. The Giants have a bunch of guys who are sort of banged up. Longoria's out. You mentioned Lamont Wade, so they got some banged up guys. I think he might get a run of playing time. I assume they called him up to at least play a decent amount.
Yeah. I mean, especially because you're starting the service time and all that. I mean, and he's a prospect. He's like top. I think James has him as at 112, I think, in his prospect list.
Yeah, I looked on Fangraphs this morning just really quick when he got called up, and he was 99 on their list, so kind of in the same range. The Giants do get 2 righties and a lefty to start the week, and then they get 3. They get 5 or 6 righties this week, so it'll be interesting to see how much he plays with the kind of the wrong side of the platoon there.
Yeah.
What about pitching in FAAB this week? There was not a lot of hitting. It seems like the tough part about pitching is all the 1, 2, and 3s for most teams already through. So any like 2-step guys with 4s and 5s. There's a couple. We mentioned Tyler Mahle throws twice this week. There's a couple of guys like teams pitched. They started the Reds played Thursday, so it kind of worked out that way. There's a couple of the guys, but there's a lot of sketchy guys with 2 steps this week. We've got guys that were available: Nick Martinez, Dakota Hudson, Carlos Hernandez.
Hey, don't besmirch Carlos Hernandez.
No, I was going to ask you if you like any of these guys. Who are you looking to pick up? For maybe trying to get some strikeouts and wins this week? Because I tell you what, wins are going to be really hard here for a while.
Yeah, I tried to structure my teams to minimize streaming, but yeah, Carlos Hernandez gets the Guardians and the Tigers. You could do worse.
Yeah,
2 home starts at that.
You could do worse too.
Yeah, it's weird. You have a wraparound series on the first weekend of the season with them playing a Monday game.
That is a weird setup. I guess it wasn't supposed to be the first weekend of the season, but still, that's a weird wraparound for not a holiday tomorrow or anything like that.
Right, and I think there's another one too, if I recall correctly. And it struck me as weird.
No, you're right. There was another. I think Pittsburgh and St. Louis. I think it's Pittsburgh and St. Louis.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Do you like Dakota Hudson at all? If you're looking at matchups, he's home against Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. If you wanted to squint a little bit and just play a matchup play, I don't like Dakota Hudson as a pitcher, but those matchups are pretty darn good.
You like him as a person, though, and that's important.
I do like him as a person. He and I are close friends, and I have no issue with him there. I just, under 20% strikeout rate is really hard, especially when you're streaming and what you want is at least you want to make sure you get those strikeouts. In case he gives up a couple runs, you want to make sure you're going to get those, 12 strikeouts for his 2 starts, and then, you might get 7, and then suddenly the ratio is really risky.
Yeah. Dakota Hudson, you're fine with. Minnesota Hudson, not so much. So, yeah.
I don't know who Minnesota Hudson is.
I don't either.
UNC State. I thought you were referencing someone famous there. I missed
Tim
that
Hudson. I could have gone with.
Tim Hudson would have been. I would have gotten fully.
Yeah.
Minnesota Hudson went way over my head.
Dakota Fanning. I don't know.
I would have gotten that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anybody else pitcher wise you liked? I mean, I'm looking at. We talked about Daniel Barr. Any of the closers you looked at? I picked up Matt Bush in a couple leagues. I just think that. I don't know. I think if I'm looking at that Texas bullpen, I think he gets the next op just because I don't really like anybody else. And the way they used him the other day kind of looked promising to me. But the Minnesota guys, they traded Taylor Rogers obviously since the last time we spoke. Tyler Duffy, Yohan Duran is obviously the big name, and he looked awesome. Mark Cerebro, who's an NFBC Hall of Famer, picked him up on every team, thinking he's going to close here in a couple weeks because the Twins are going to win. He tweeted about it tonight. I watched his stuff. He's nasty. I think they seem like they want to use him as more of a multi-inning guy and maybe as a starter at some point. But if they were to ever let's just lock in this 8th and 9th or lock in the 9th with him, he has a huge upside to be really good.
I wanted Duran, got outbid in Foreman Tout Wars 14-13, AL only league.
Oh, AL only would have been really nice for him.
Gross. I got outbid on Jake Berger 63-57. I got outbid on Pagan 33-13. I was just passive across the board. And Chris Paddock 288-13, and that's okay. Paddock was my last choice, and he went for the most amount of money. So
I'm not a Chris Paddock person.
No, it's an AL only league though.
Yeah, he's clearly got a shot, and he's they're going with 6-man rotation, and he's one of the 6 in the moment. I'm not in on that still. I think there's too many issues there.
Yeah, me too.
Do you have any sort of thought on Minnesota? The first save was Tyler Duffy. They've got 4 or 5 guys that you mentioned: Pagan, Alcala, Duran.
I think it's going to be 4 or 5 guys. Yeah. I think that's.
You just kind of stick with that and go.
I mean, it's Rocco Baldelli kind of did it that way last year. He's off the raised tree. I don't see why he would change it.
Yeah, there's another team. We didn't even mention them. We were talking about all the teams that have all the issues at closer. There's just another one there. It's tough. It's hard to find guys that are going to get saves, and you can kind of time them out. We talked about. Is there anybody else you were looking at closer wise that you thought maybe do? I mean, we talked about Matt Bush, who I kind of like, but Greg Holland's there too.
Did you put in for Santillan?
I didn't. I think I had a backup bid on him, but then after Art Warren at the second save, I think Santillan will be pretty good. I just don't know. I think again, the guy's gonna be hard at times. I think they're gonna use him.
Yeah, I think Bell's going to be just the same as he was last year, and it's going to be frustrating because it might be right.
And Lucas Sims will be back in a couple weeks too, right? Which is to muddle it even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went for, I think I had a small bit of him, but he went for 77 in my main event. So I was not close to that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so many teams. I'm looking at the other teams. Is it Baltimore? I stayed fully away. Did you do anything there with Jorge Lopez or Dylan Tate or Paul Fry or anybody like that?
Nope.
I did not either.
I just don't think it's worth it.
My last name in FAAB, a guy that was not available in 15s, but 60% rostered in 12 teamers. I really like Danny Jansen in Toronto. If you need a catcher, 2 home runs already this weekend. He was so horrible early last year that he got lost a little bit how good he was late. It was only 71 plate appearances, be it 323 with 7 home runs. We forget this is a guy that was like everybody's fired up about a year or two ago. It's like he was going like that. He's going to the 15th round, then he was up to the 12th, and he was up to the 10th round in main events. Everybody was fired up, and then he was so bad. I think he found it late last year. He's got 2 home runs already this weekend, but like hitting in that lineup, you're just going to fall into some stats. That lineup is so long that he gets on base. Someone on the top's going to hit him in. He's going to have guys on base all the time. I think you do a lot worse than Danny Jansen as your second catcher, even in 12 teamers. I think he should be rostered fully there.
Agreed. It's everybody's excited about Kirk. Everybody's excited about Gabriel Moreno.
Yep. And I like Kirk too, but I think he's going to DH a bunch. And I think Jansen, they like Jansen's defense, so I think he's going to play.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a few news and notes before we get. There's a couple players I want to talk about at the end here who I think have actually been impacted already by the season. I know it's weird to talk about after 3 days, but I think there's some actual real stuff there. But first, I know from our sponsors at Better Edge, bet against others with no fees involved. That's right. No pesky hidden fees to ruin your day. Better Edge is a social betting marketplace where there's no fee in each transaction. Better Edge is a social betting marketplace, and chances are it's legal in your state. We bring back betting to its social roots where you can like, comment, and challenge other users all within the app. Play without getting played at Better Edge. Go to betteredge.com. That's BETTOREDGE.com to sign up today. Real quick, you have a couple of news and notes. I do want to talk about some players here, so I'm going to speed through this. But Lucas Giolito obviously was the big injury news of the weekend. He looked really good too. He left to start for 4 innings. Everybody's like, "Oh, I can't believe they went so." I think it was 61 pitches. I can't believe they took him out so quick. And turns out that he has a lower abdominal sprain. The only quote I've seen so far is he definitely will require an IL stint. It doesn't seem like they think it's going to be long-term, but I think we're looking at best a couple of starts missed here.
Yeah, I thought I saw something saying that they're hopeful that he'd only miss 2 starts.
Yeah.
This is borderline oblique stuff again. They just they call it, without calling it an oblique, right. I'm nervous about this for sure.
Yeah, it's too bad because he looked really good. People obviously he got drafted really early, so it was it's just, you hate to see that for a guy that's drafted so early. It's rough. It's tough. And especially with a pitcher and a guy who's their ace and a team that wants to compete, you got to figure they're going to be really, really safe and make sure he's 100% ready to go before he comes back.
Yep. Agreed.
Blake Snell, another guy that was really good at the end of last year. He is likely headed to the IL also. He has an adductor strain. I think it's the groin. Problematic here is the same injury he had late last year that bugged him. You hate to see the fact that's recurring. Maybe it never fully healed, but that's not good. And he had a little bit of troubles late in spring, and people were wondering what was going on there. And clearly, he hasn't made a start yet this year. He goes on the IL. I don't know when we're going to see him again.
Yeah, and it's disturbing that it kind of happened before the start even happened, as he was warming up too. Nabil Krismat got the spot start there, but he's not really a starter. I know it's a lot of speculation. Mackenzie Gore's on.
Yeah, he looked really good in his first start, right? In the minors.
Yeah. Now the question to me is did anybody drop him? Because he was drafted, I think, in every main, right?
He was not drafted in my second main, so he was not available. I went and looked. He was drafted and held in 3 of my 5 leagues, and he was not drafted in the other 2. So he's available once he gets called up. That'll be a huge bid. Dalton Del Nashi picked him up last week for $225, which looks pretty darn good right now. Yeah,
pretty weird that we had the FAAB bidding 4 days before opening day.
Right. Yeah, it's been a weird season, but
yeah, of course, there's a lot of that there, and obviously the schedule has just been different this year.
Right. Some of those people drafted in February, so you want to be able to have full lineups, and injuries happen and all that.
For sure.
If Gore gets called up and put in the rotation, that's going to be some massive bidding next week too, especially if he pitches well in his first start. Matt Barnes, the Red Sox closer, missed the entire Yankee series. He sounds like he's better. They kind of pitched Saturday. Thought he was going to be okay today, but did not pitch again tonight. Jake Diekman came in, actually struck out the side of the Yankees. It was Gallo, Stanton, and Judge, which was kind of wild. I did not expect to see that because usually expect Diekman to at least walk one guy in there. But Barnes is in back tightness, never something you want to see, but are you interested in any of these other Red Sox if Barnes were to miss some time? Hansel Robles, Jake Diekman, anybody else there that you would like run to add if Barnes went the IL for a week?
I think I'd go with them first, but I still want to see what happens with Garrett Whitlock.
Yeah.
I still think he could be a stud closer if they chose to go that route. I understand and I actually appreciate how they want to get more than one inning at a time out of him, but
it sounds like he's
for our purposes, it'd be nice if he was a closer candidate.
And especially if someone were to go out long term, I think maybe you'd have to switch to that. It sounds like he's going to piggyback on Rich Hill starts for a while, which puts him in a spot where it might be really good. Although if the game's 5-0 by the time he comes in, not so great. But it sounds like that's their plan at the moment with Whitlock.
But he could have a Ryan Yarbrough type of season where he gets a lot of wins just because he's coming in the 4th and 5th inning.
Yeah, you come in up 4-0 in the 3rd inning or the 4th inning. That's a really nice way to get some easy wins. Which
exactly,
Yarbrough is a great comp because he did a bunch of times a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Ian Happ, who started off pretty well in his first couple of games, was hitting the knee Saturday. It looked painful, but he walked off. He sat today. X-rays are negative. I think he's going to be fine, but that's one that you definitely want to check the lamps. Although they don't play on Monday, so it's a little bit tough because there's so many teams that do play. But he's 2 at Pittsburgh and 1 at Colorado, so I think you probably want to toss him in with the thought that I think he's gonna play this week. AJ Pollock, we made it a whole game and a half with AJ Pollock being healthy. He was leading off for Tim Anderson. It looked nice. Left early on Saturday with a hammy. I think I read that he's supposed to go on paternity leave soon and then maybe the IL, but he's not concerned about it. It seems like this is very much up in the air, but I certainly wouldn't count on him for this week because he's AJ Pollock.
Right. I was ticked off because I got outbid on him in Ale Tout. We had a Wednesday night run.
That's right, because he got traded in the Kimbrel trade. That's right.
Yeah, and so that was we hadn't had any other FAAB run, and we did our draft on March 19th. So yeah, he was the top guy, and I raised my bid twice, got it up to 631 out of 1,000, and was 3rd place. So
I feel so good that he says he's not worried about those. So that means it's fine, right?
Player optimism on injuries is always very it's controlling.
He said it's really short term. We'll deal with the team and see what makes sense. But yeah, I'm not worried long term. It's going to be a short term deal here. Great.
Short term in life or short term in baseball.
It's I pretty much set when I did my FAAB, I looked at my team. I pretty much counted him as not playing this week and kind of went from there.
I think that's a smart play.
I'm afraid that's how it's going to work out.
Yeah.
That's kind of the end. We had a pretty good weekend for injuries. I want to knock on wood somewhere, but aside from Giolito, that was kind of the major one. Yeah, there you go. We've avoided bad ones. All means is coming this week, right?
Man, I like the anti-jinx. So they're good. Yeah. Good job.
I think I reversed and back into myself, so I don't know what I did there. But there are some players I want to talk to you about, guys that I know it's been 3 days, but players that actually have had their value change over these last 3 days. And I know that sounds weird, but I'll give some examples here. The first guy is someone you and I talked about a bunch in the preseason. Is Tyler Mcgill. Pitched really well on Thursday. His velo is way up. He looked good. Our friend Matt Modica calls him the baby goat because he reminds him of DeGrom, which is a very good thing. Matt's obviously a Mets fan. That nickname has caught on, but I want to make sure that Matt gets the credit for that because everybody's calling him that now. Matt's the one that started that about 2 months ago. People started calling him that in Vegas, but he looked awesome. I watched that start against the Nationals. 5 innings, 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, but looked the part of that. Like you watch some starts and like Syndergaard today, like good line, but then you look at 1 strikeout and wasn't getting a lot of swings in mid. Like he kind of looked okay, but like Mcgill looked like an ace in that game. I know you want to don't jump too far, but like how he moved up as much as it was in draft prices. But how much do you like Tyler Mcgill right now? Because I really like
quite a bit. Yeah. Quite a bit. Went from it's 1 start, but average fastball last year was 94.7. It was 96.2 on opening day.
That'll work.
Swing strike percentage went up from 12.5 to 13.2. No homers, obviously. That's always been a bugaboo about him. But so far, so good. No walks, also so good. So yeah, pretty darn good start. I think the Nats are a streamable opponent. They can hurt you a little bit, but
after that top 4 or 5, maybe if you want to count keep it raised, it drops off pretty quick there. And someone made the joke on Twitter that they thought the Nationals were using pitcher hitting because Robles was hitting 9th.
Ooh, Not cool. Not cool, dude.
And it wasn't me that made the joke either, which is the most surprising thing about it. Yeah. I wish I could have taken credit for that.
Stealing your material.
Definitely stealing my material. Mcgill's the guy that, like, if I saw this weekend, that among the non-aces, he was the one that impressed me the most. I think that like if we were drafting today, I think he'd be like a 9th or 10th round pick. Obviously, we're not, but I think he's moved up that much.
Yeah, he might have.
There's a number of offensive players that I think have changed their value. And the first one is one that's tough for me because I was really high on him as we were coming in the season. And I drafted him in the main event. Joe Adell had a troublesome weekend in Anaheim. He struggled the first game. He was struggling in the outfield. Then he sat one game. And he played again today, made another bad play in the outfield. Then he robbed a 3-run homer. So he kind of redeemed himself. But his first 8 at-bats, he had 6 strikeouts. He had a bunch of swings and misses. He kind of looked like that guy we were worried about when he came up and struck out a lot. We thought the strikeouts were going to be there. We thought maybe he had dropped that down a little bit, but it's rough. His strikeout rate entering today, Jeff, was 100%. He did drop that to 77.8%. So a good step forward for Joe, dropping the K rate to only 80%.
Thought he had kind of fixed that a little bit last year, but
9 plate appearances, 7 strikeouts, and like 3 butchered plays in the outfield. Did you see his throw from the outfield, by the way?
No, not yet.
He had a throw from left field on, I think it was Friday night, that guy coming home that I'm not exaggerating was equidistant between home plate and first base.
Oh, no.
And I'm actually, for once in my life, not exaggerating. It's that bad a throw.
Yikes.
It looks like he was like throwing it to somebody in the dugout. It's that bad.
Yikes.
I get it. It's just a release point thing. Like, you can't one throw. Who cares? But it was a rough weekend that he sat. I think he just sat once, it looks like. But I don't know. Like, if it wasn't a great weekend. It's one weekend. He's a stud prospect. But the fact that the biggest thing I concerned about, he actually sat twice. He pinch hit today. So he actually did sit 2 or 3 games, which is really concerning to me. And there was a quote Joe Madden had over the weekend. He said, well, once Taylor Ward comes back, he's an everyday outfielder, which is strange. Because then we're talking about
Brandon Marsh in a league or two. And I didn't like that he sat today.
Yeah, we're talking about Marsh and Adell platooning if somehow Taylor Ward, of all people, is going to play every day, because obviously Mike Trout's going to play every day. Ohtani's going to DH every day. Like, suddenly, if we look at Adell and Marsh platooning, that seems nonsensical from their team, like building up your prospects and guys playing, getting better approach. But fantasy wise, that's a disaster for Marsh and Adell.
Yeah, and they can't fudge first base either. That's taken care of.
Yep. There's no place to go. If Taylor Ward's gonna play every day, there's no place else to go for these two guys. Put
him back behind the plate. Make him a catcher again.
I like it. So I'm actually a little bit worried. I think that he hit 5th on opening night, had a rough game, and they're like, oh, well, it's not a punishment. He's just not going to play. And then he started today. He did only set once. I changed my mind on that. Sorry about that. He pinch hit yesterday, but 9 at bats and 7 strikeouts. I'm a little bit worried.
Sure. Naturally.
Similar vein in Detroit with the Austin Meadows trade. We talked a lot about Josh Lowe and how that impacted Tampa Bay, but Akil Baddoo is someone that I really liked as a possible, speed power guy. He had 13 home runs, 18 stolen bases last year. Moved way down the lineup. I think he hit 7th on opening day. Then he hit 9th on the second day and sat today. Suddenly you're looking at him, not playing against lefties, moving down the lineup. I think his values, is actually changed based on that trade.
I'd agree. I didn't think I don't have him anywhere. I have 0.0 Akil Baddoo.
I liked him in that ADP range as someone that could get me a bunch of stolen bases, and I usually need it in that spot, and I think he would hurt me. But I'm legit worried. I'm worried about Adell, and I'm worried about Baddoo, especially because he was a higher priced guy. As Adell was a 15th rounder when I took him. He moved up a little bit, but I took Baddoo in the 9th round of my second main, and I really liked the speed power stuff. And I thought he could hit 245, and if he's going to hit 7th, 8th, or 9th, it changes his value a ton.
It absolutely does.
In that same vein, Jazz Chisholm, kind of in the same spot. He hit 9th, and then he sat, and then he tweeted about how upset about it was that he sat. He was back in the lineup today, but the thing with Chisholm is I think we all knew that with that many strikeouts, the batting average is always going to be a concern. But the home run and speed was going to be there. But the key was that the runs are going to be there if he's hitting at the top of the lineup.
Right.
He hits 9th, like what it was kind of with Baddoo, same kind of thing. And Chisholm was even drafted higher than that. This seems like a weird move from the Marlins. Like, this is a guy that is part of their future, and it seems like they're not really making him feel that way, and it seems like he's upset about it. It doesn't seem like a really good situation there in Florida.
This seems like a Mattingly thing, but I don't know. Here's the thing about Jazz is he homered on Friday. Went 1 for 3 with a walk, I think, in there too. So, that's good. We like that.
Yeah.
And then he sits on day 2. He was hurt some in spring training, but we knew he was going to bat towards the bottom of the order. That we saw in spring training. So I'm not surprised by that. But the sitting.
That was a
so
good
weird.
Mike Curlin score with his spring training stuff. It really pointed that out, that Jazz was like moving steadily down throughout the spring.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What do you? I mean, obviously you drafted him in the 7th. I mean, not you, but someone drafted him in the 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th round. Like, you just kind of keep throwing him out there for a while, right?
Write it out. Unless there's like some definitive statement saying, "Hey, we're going to bench him more." Then
you really need Garrett Cooper to hit second rather than just sticking Chisholm up there and see what happens for a little bit. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. But he hit 8th today, so he was 1 for 3 today. He had a really nice diving play to decide to save their pitching at one point. A really nice play to his left that he caught an Austin Slater line drive. But I don't know. I'm worried there too, and I'm worried in LA. You mentioned, you made a joke earlier about Cody Bellinger. They were in Coors this week. I think, one series with Bellinger, who cares? But he's hitting pretty far down the lineup. He's hit 7th today. I think he hit 7th in his other games also. B, the spring was awful. He did have 2 hits today, so he's now at 182. Obviously, one series, who cares? But this is someone that was falling down drafts and certainly did nothing this weekend in Coors to change anybody's thoughts on that.
Agreed. Here's how, how his value has changed. In I have a home league, Daily Moves. Someone cut Bellinger.
Oh,
I picked him up, but still, I might bench him and see if he, I just want to make sure I grabbed him as quickly as I could because it's first come, first serve in that league.
Is he someone that you do think about benching for a little bit here and kind of see if he can get it going a little bit?
Maybe, especially, they don't have Coors Field anymore. I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm probably going to start him. I mean, I think in that league where I picked him up, I might consider it a little bit more, but most leagues I play in a reasonable enough depth that I can't afford to bench him if I have him.
Yeah, I have him in one NFBC online league, so the 12-teamer, but I mean, like, I have 7 good outfielders in the league like that. You've got a lot of guys. Yeah. I think I'm going to play him this week. They get Minnesota. He gets Archer and Paddock. I'm definitely going to use that. And then they face Cincinnati. No disrespect to our Reds, but I'd probably use him there also. And then I think I'm going to decide after this week, see how this week looks. I want to watch him a little bit too, because he looked lost those first couple games. He looked a little bit better today, but you want to see if he's actually making some hard contacts. I'm not really worried about the average. I'm worried about how he looks, his approach, if he's hitting the ball hard a little bit. So I'm using him all this week, and then maybe I'll think about it in the weekend if I want to maybe slide him out in a 12-teamer.
Makes sense. I think it's a buy low for him though. I think so. If you're in a trade league, I'd see what it takes.
I think it's actually I think it's a real buy low too. I think you might actually find somebody who's willing to kind of, especially if you drafted early and someone's excited about him, and the news in the spring was so bad. And he was so bad in the spring. I think it actually might be we talk a lot about buy lows, and most of them you can't really buy that guy low, but I think you actually might be able to buy Bellinger low. There's a lot of people that are really, really down on him. You see,
you can't wait till he goes and hits a couple of bombs either. You got to do it now. Buy it at the bottom.
There were a couple threads on Twitter this weekend though. Like, someone mentioned Bellinger, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's gonna be out of the league in a couple of years." He's Chris Davis with a C or a K, I guess. But there's a lot of people that are really down on Bellinger right now, and that's for good reason. He was really bad last year too, and bad so far this year, and tweaking his swing again. He says he's comfortable with swing finally, but I don't know. I think you're right. I think you have to do it before he hits a couple home runs, because I think they're coming too.
Yeah, I think so too.
Last guy I want to talk to you about, Andrew Vaughn in Chicago is interesting now, especially with the AJ Pollock missing time. If that extends longer than AJ Pollock thinks it does, at least if he goes on the IL, already 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. I think it's a spot where if Pollock's out, Tony La Russa is going to have no way but to play this guy. He was 15 home runs last year, but you look a little bit deeper. 46% hard hit rate, a barrel rate over 10%. For that power, you got a K rate under 22%. He was 21.5 last year. Obviously, a very highly regarded draft pick out of Cal. He was a top 10 pick. I think he was a top 10 pick. He was third overall. Yeah, third overall. I think Andrew Vaughn is interesting right now, and he might get when he's running playing time right now. Maybe he just forces loose a hand, and if he can get hot, he maybe should stick in the lineup for a while. I really like him. He's available. I'd obviously pick him up right away. I don't think he's available in many leagues, but he's another guy that I would love to. Probably hard to trade for him after he hits 2 home runs over the weekend, but I think the stock is way up on Vaughn moving forward here.
It's just the second year, and talk about aberrant development too. I mean, didn't play in 2020. Yeah. Hit the minors after getting drafted. Hit 3 levels in the minors in 2019. Then was asked to play out of position last year. All these things can inhibit development. Yeah, so this is a good post hype guy.
Yeah, I agree there. It's very true. I appreciate all the comments in here. It's good stuff. We got someone that's buying Bellinger all day. Someone thinks the Jazz is overrated. Our friend Anthony Gialdi weighed in. The pun meister strikes again. So someone actually likes your puns, Jeff.
Yeah, audience of one. That's all I always say.
Does your
one person gets it?
Family like your puns or no?
My daughters like my dad jokes and puns. Sure.
Do they really? Why?
I mean, they groan sometimes. Why? They're witty and funny. Don't get me started on egg jokes.
Usually teenage girls aren't fans of those though.
Well, yeah. I mean, my younger daughter is gonna appreciate them more than my older daughter. But
yeah, she's finally over them. But how is it having 2 teenage daughters? I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I have a 6-year-old daughter. I'm scared to death, honestly, of those years.
It's great. They're awesome. They do cool things. We won a soccer tournament this weekend. That was fun.
That's awesome. How many games is one playing a soccer tournament over a weekend?
She played 4 games this weekend.
Oh, wow. So 2 each day? That's a lot of games.
2 each day. They're good and tired. They earn their sleep. Let's put it that way.
Is that like full 90-minute games? Like how? Kind of level are we talking about?
So it was on the pool play games. There were 32-minute halves. We jumped that up in the championship game to 40-minute halves. So close, 80-minute game for the final, but on turf.
Is it like real soccer where everybody plays the whole game and they only have a few substitutions, or is like AYSO where they can sub in and out easily?
Well, it is AYSO.
Oh, it is. Okay.
But at the same time, you can sub in and out. I mean, once you come out, you're not out for good. But high school is like that too. I mean, you guys can do that. So
I was just saying, high school. I played in high school, and we could sub guys in and out. But maybe you're still playing a lot of minutes, though. I assume.
Oh yeah, a couple of the girls played the whole game. We had 14 girls this weekend, so we had 3 subs at all times.
Question in the chat from someone with just by the name of M, very mysterious. If you had to add someone on waivers this week right now, would you take Anthony Santander or Heimer Candelario? Jeff, what say you?
Candelario, better lineup and perhaps better ballpark. We don't know that part yet, but we do know that
we got our first taste of the new Camden this week.
Did you see the pictures of the?
I did. It looked worse before they put the pad. Like it looked really bad in the first picture I saw. It didn't look quite as bad when I saw it yesterday, but it's still
they just took a chunk out and said, "Yeah, we'll do that."
And you make the wall bigger. Like there's a lot of those like pulled home runs in the first 4 rows they're going to lose, but it didn't look quite as bad as I thought it was going to look. But it'll be interesting that like weird jutting out left center.
Someone's going to get hurt.
I was going to say someone's going to run into that at some point. Yeah. I think I go Santander. If it makes anyone feel better about that, Phil Dussault, who like won every league imaginable last year, was big on Santander. So if that weighs into your decision making at all, if you want someone that is really good that's on Santander, he was on. I can only say because he tweeted out all his draft boards and everything right now. The season started, but he had Santander on a lot of his draft boards. So if you want to take it from somebody else besides us, that's a pretty good source to take it from too.
Oh yeah, James Anderson was all over Candelario. So there.
Well, there you go. That's a good source also. So that's they're both pretty good. Obviously, Candelario is a corner, and Santander's an outfielder that affects you at all. Mm-hmm. I think I go Santander a little bit, but I wouldn't argue hard against either one. I kind of like both guys actually.
For sure.
Jeff, anybody else that you want to talk about? I know we're a little bit late here. It's a little bit late on the West Coast. Also, Anthony Gialdi, thank you very much for the comment. We're the GOATs of Sunday Night Fab. I really appreciate that. Anthony's a really good guy. We both met him in Vegas. Yep. I may have a shirt that he kind of gave me that I was really appreciative also. So that was pretty cool. He's I was happy to really finally get to meet him because I was not in Vegas last year. But Jeff, anything else?
I went all the way to Vegas and I didn't get the lousy T-shirt, but I did get a beer from him. So there was.
There you go. That's still pretty good right there.
Yeah, it was.
I imagine he'll find a way to get you a shirt at some point. It's his hockey
next
team
main.
He plays hockey. The Kansas City Moose. It's a very very cool shirt.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody else this first weekend of baseball? Anything else you want to talk about that we have not hit quite as of yet?
No, I just want to soak in. Just set your lineups early. Going to be a lot of early games tomorrow, weather permitting.
Yeah, let's hope we get some good weather. We had that first day was pretty bad. Oh, yep, shirt coming, Jeff.
Yeah.
The comment was made. So anyway,
Yeah.
thanks, Anthony, for that. But thanks everybody for listening to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We do really appreciate it. We've had not a lot of nice comments over the last couple of weeks. As the season has started, so we really appreciate that.
Yep.
Love doing it. Love talking to Jeff every Sunday night. So it's a lot of fun. If you could please rate every the podcast, if you do like listening to us, if you leave a bunch of stars, a nice comment does help the people. Helps the podcast a lot. Helps people find the podcast. It's also good. If you want to follow Jeff on Twitter, he's at Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jenstad. We'll certainly be talking baseball on there. If you want to mute all my Warriors talk as the playoffs start, I won't blame you there either. But I'll be looking forward to that. So if you want to talk some hoops, I will be up for that also. But other than that, hope everybody has a really good week. Hope everybody enjoys the first full week of baseball. Really glad we have it. Should be a lot of fun. And hope everybody takes care. We'll be back at you next Sunday night. Take care.